35 years. As we look back on our achievements and celebrate progress, we know that the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence could not have emerged as a leader in advocating for victims without the support of our many partners. That's why we're sharing stories, so you'll get a glimpse into the past and the future that we're trying to create. Many businesses and community groups are actively engaged in the effort to end domestic violence.
This is a very important issue for faith-based communities. As we know, domestic violence affects a person physically and psychologically, but it often affects them spiritually as well. A person may be in a spiritual crisis alongside the abuse that they're enduring, so they will often have questions such as, why is this happening to me? Why did God allow this? And maybe questioning the validity of their faith, and may feel that they're being punished in some way, or may feel that they have to choose between their faith and being safe. So they will often seek guidance and support from faith leaders before going to a secular organization.
Working together with our 6-member agencies and our task force of survivors, SOAR, we have developed innovative public awareness campaigns that educate and motivate bystanders to help end domestic violence. Our media advocacy and public awareness campaigns are designed to reach those impacted by domestic violence and change the attitudes that perpetuate abuse. They've earned the Coalition national and local recognition.
The Initiative for Nonprofit Excellence, which is part of the Rhode Island Foundation that I have been working with, is an entity set up to really look at best practices among nonprofits. We like the fact that it was fresh and creative, and it brought new faces and new messages to new audiences. We were very impressed with the diversity of media sources. We were extremely impressed with the fact that there was a English and Spanish version. It just looked like a very thoughtful campaign that had some best practices from the national model, but they really made it Rhode Island specific, and that was something that everyone on the committee thought was an outstanding practice.
Since 2003, the Coalition has been working to engage Rhode Islanders in the prevention of domestic violence by empowering communities to address the problem before it starts.
It's really important that we're working on prevention, because if all we ever do is react after the fact when something's already happened, it means we're never going to be able to stem the tide and really make a sea change in terms of the prevalence of partner violence. I think that the Coalition has done an amazing job of coming up with innovative projects that are really cutting edge. And I know that members of other coalitions in other states look to Rhode Island at some of the projects that they're doing for great ideas.
Through innovative strategies like the 10 Men Project, the Coalition is partnering with male community leaders to change the culture of violence.
I really hope that my work and involvement has allowed me to change the trajectory of how men look and intersect with women, giving another lens for how we can work in partnership to have healthy relationships. It's such an important issue that we're all passionate about. We're dads, we're uncles, we're fathers. We're men that should be part of the solution and not sitting on the sidelines. It's really critical that we stand up and show these young men and our future generations what positive, healthy relationships should look like. We need to allow our daughters and our nieces and those that we love to know that men stand by them and support with them their right to be equal partners in our relationships. It's critical to society, and it's critical to the work that I do every day.
The Coalition's policy work is about ensuring that the systems in our state work to keep victims and their children safe.
The impact that the Coalition has had at the state level and on Smith Hill is really to be able to bring strong laws forward in order to protect families and children and victims of domestic violence. And I think that in addition to that, the legislative work that we do at a national level too helps us be more aware of what to do here at the local and at the state level.
The Coalition works with a multitude of state systems to increase victims' safety and hold abusers accountable. Survivors are leading the work through advocacy, community engagement, and public awareness. Members of SOAR, Sisters Overcoming Abusive Relationships, share their personal stories to help educate the public and create change. In 2012, SOAR members, in collaboration with Trinity Repertory Company, wove their stories into an extraordinary theatrical production that received national recognition.
I think behind closed doors gives the public a snapshot of what happens behind the door in a household where there is abuse. Watching the women, including myself, from the first year performing to this year, is how they've grown by telling their stories, and how they've grown in confidence. And I think that's powerful for them to have grown and not be seen as a victim, but as surviving that, and helping women to survive, and helping people to understand that they're not victims, they're people.
Over the years, we've made great strides in moving the issue of domestic violence forward in our state, but there's still much work to be done.
You know, there's been a tremendous amount that's changed in the past 35 years, and so much of it is for positive changes. We've seen the public recognize that domestic violence is no longer a private matter. You know, I think most people recognize domestic violence is a serious problem and it's a crime. I think the other area we've seen significant change is that so many victims are coming forward, and there's not as much stigma, there's not as much embarrassment, there's not as much blaming the victim that takes place. And once we've made that change, you can never turn back. I think we're poised at a really pivotal point in the history of the movement to end domestic violence. We're really at a turning point, because we now know that domestic violence is preventable. And so in order to meet our mission of ending domestic violence, we can really rally the troops. Every community, everyone in society has a role to play to help end domestic violence. So if we really work together, we actually might have a chance at having Rhode Island be the first state in the country that can truly put an end to domestic violence.
Domestic violence happens in each of our communities. We've made progress, but we're at a critical moment. To build a Rhode Island without violence, we must act now. We must expand our policy, prevention, and public education efforts. We must increase resources for the vital services that our member agencies provide. We didn't get here without you, and we can't do what's needed now without your continued support. Let's create a world where domestic violence doesn't exist for our children or for any of us. Let's move forward together.